What happens when a 3-5 emotional generator and a 3-5 splenic projector both find human design at the same time and decide to burn it all down to start over? In true 3-5 fashion, Dr. Kate Flynn and her husband sold everything and moved to Ecuador, trusting their experiment more than any plan. And now, as they third line their way back to the US, Kate's work continues to center on the body, the place where real alignment begins. In this episode, we talk about what it means to really be in your body, from reconnecting with your feet and restoring communication between mind and movement, to how her Body First program helps people rebuild that inner coordination so clarity, purpose, and connection can flow naturally again. If you've ever felt disconnected from your body or wondered what it looks like to let it lead, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to Real Human Design Stories, where guests share their powerful personal stories of transformation through human design. I'm Kathy Bashanko, an intuitive human design mentor and guide to radical self-trust. Join us as we explore how your human design experiment can truly change your life. Hi there. Today I'm joined by Dr. Kate Flynn, a 3-5 emotional generator on the right angle cross of planning and founder of How to Human, a school for embodied self-mastery and authentic living. After nearly 2 decades as a chiropractor, Kate realized real change doesn't come from fixing the body or talking about the mind. It comes from restoring communication between them. Through her Body First program, she helps people reconnect with their instincts and let life move through alignment instead of control. Now back in her hometown of Kenton, Ohio, Kate continues to live what she teaches, trusting the body, honoring emotion, and following where her energy leads. And I'm really excited this is my first conversation with Dr. Kate. Is that okay to call you that?
Sure.
Okay. And, we've followed each other on Facebook for a while, known each other in the social media circles, but I've been fascinated with some of your recent posts and just about your life in general. And I'd love for you to just start by telling our guests a little bit about how you came into the whole human design experiment. So welcome.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. So we found human design several years ago. I think it's about 5 years ago now. And my work was in chiropractic. My work was in healing. I taught something called activating ascension, which was all about ascending out of your mind and into your heart and embodied living. And I was at a point where I was getting pretty burnt out with it. And I was hearing about this thing called human design. And if you've ever done your own thing, you learn pretty quickly how tempting it is for other people to want you to do their thing. So I would hear about human design and I would be like blinders on, straight ahead. That's not my thing. This is my thing. And I think about the third time I heard about it, I shared it with my husband and he said, this has been coming up for a while. I think we should explore what this is all about and what it means. And I was like, that kind of snapped me out of it a little bit. Like, really? You do? Okay. Because I was at a point where I was ready to kind of throw in the towel and give it all up anyway. So everything for a reason and at the time that you would most benefit from it. We had our readings on his birthday. It was March 4th, 2020, right after COVID started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he did his first, and he's a projector. He's a 3-5 projector. And he was in that room for so long. I was like, it was 3 hours. And I'm thinking, how are you sitting still doing this? Like, I would be losing my mind right now. So then I had my reading and he said, okay, for generators, I usually do 3 sessions, about an hour each so that you can integrate. And I was like, cool, that's way better for me. I will not make it through a 3-hour session. So I sat down with him and I was like, this guy knows everything there is to know about me. Like things I had never told anybody that, I had played really close. I mean, I felt kind of like naked on Main Street, basically.
Yeah.
How much he could tell me about myself. And I was just blown away. I was absolutely blown away. And that kind of started us on a new adventure to really go all in on this thing called the human design experiment. Because so many of the things I knew about myself, but I didn't have that sense of authority, right? Being emotional. I thought because I was intuitive, because I was in the healing world, because I was working with other people, that I should have the answers immediately. I should make decisions quickly, and that life should work out for me because of that.
Right.
Was
Yeah.
not what I was experiencing at all. I was very much living in that condition to be a manifester. Go out, make things happen. And I don't think it ever worked for me, not one time. This idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make it happen. And I would watch other people do it. Those are the people you see on social media that are
Doing it.
or pretending they're doing it. And it was just a whole body exhale after the frustration that I wasn't a different design. And I think maybe that's something we all go through, design envy. We find out who we are, we read about other ones, and we're like, oh, why can't I be more? But once I got through that point, I was like, okay, these are the cards you've been dealt, so to speak. How can you play them to the best of your ability? How can you wait and let life come to you? And be curious about it rather than feeling like, oh, this is a punishment or, another design would be better. To be curious and say, I wonder what would happen if.
Yeah.
Don't make that decision immediately. I don't jump into things. I don't initiate. And so to go all in, and this has sparked somewhat because my husband, being a 3/5 projector, came home from work one day. He was custom home builder, high end, super stressful job. And he said, if I keep doing this, I'm going to have a heart attack and die.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, that's doesn't really work with my 5-year plan. Right? What do we need to do? And from there, we made the decision to sell everything and move to Ecuador, to really unplug from kind of hustle culture, from go out and make it happen, and take that time to really find out who we are outside of everything we thought we were supposed to be or had been told we should be. And it's been a wild ride. It's kind of funny now to be sharing that and seeing that chapter come to an end, because after 4.5 years there, we're in the process of moving back to the US, replugging into society where we can really put to test what we've learned and experienced and see if we can maintain that sense of self without falling back into conditioned behavior.
Yeah. So, wow, tell me, that really sound like, it's funny because I just pulled up your chart and I'm looking at it while you're talking. And I can really see that life playing out with that gate 36 energy or gate 35 energy that you have there, right? That a design of, well, they say design of a jack of all trades, but it's really this gate of adventure. There's so much trying of all that stuff in that throat gate. But yeah, so Ecuador sounds really exciting and so interesting. I'm just sitting here thinking about 2 3/5s married, a projector and a generator. It's so beautiful if you can really embrace it. But I'm wondering for both of you, finding out your designs. I mean, you said it was like being naked, and I get that, right? In a room with somebody. But what was the biggest, oh my God, really kind of moment in finding out about your design?
In finding out about my design, it was letting the emotions ride and finding out about how we relate to each other, because he's a splenic projector. He only has root and spleen defined, and that's all. So it gave me a much better awareness, and I have 7 out of the 9 centers defined. It helped me understand how much I'm impacting him all the time. And I stopped holding him responsible for my emotions.
Yeah.
Which I had been doing.
Yes. That's interesting.
So the awareness then was, do you want to amplify my emotions, or would you rather walk far, far away for a few minutes? Right? And learning that we usually end up in the same space, in the same place, but we get there through 2 very, very different routes. Not thinking that he should be more like me and I should be more like him, but letting us have our own individual experience of whatever it is, with the trust built that we're going to end up in the same place.
Well, do you always wind up in the same place?
We usually come to the same conclusion regarding things.
Yeah.
He gets there faster. I get there slower.
Yeah. So there's so many things I could ask you about your design, but I'm going to not go there right now. I'm going to go back to your story. So why Ecuador?
Well, we had always talked about doing something crazy like this. I think we had been married 12, 13 years by the time we decided to do this. And we had looked at Costa Rica. It was always kind of somewhere in Latin America. I can't tell you how many times I started learning to speak Spanish and then stopped because, kids, economy, money, house, whatever it was. And so we were initially settled on Panama. But then a crazy thing happened. We were watching a video on YouTube that was about Ecuador. And at the same moment, we both looked at each other. This place looks way better than Panama. Why aren't we going here instead? So we've already, our families and bosses and everything already think we're crazy because we're doing this. And then we come back super flaky saying, oh, we changed our minds on Panama. Now we're actually going to Ecuador. And ultimately, I feel like that was the better decision, though we'll never know that for sure because we didn't go.
Did you go to Panama at all?
We didn't go to, we sold everything.
With no visit. You didn't go visit first, huh?
Correct. Took 3 suitcases apiece. And people said, but what if you don't like it? What are you going to do? We were like, well, if we don't like it, we'll go somewhere else.
That's such a great attitude for anybody, but especially the 3-5, right? That third line profile learns as much from what doesn't work out than what does. So by you having this adventure going with this open mind to whatever happens, it'll be what we need. Yeah,
right.
That's cool. Going back to he had a 3-hour one-time chat and you had 3 separate 1-hour with how much integration time in between?
There was a week in between.
Ooh. And in that week, were you thinking about it? Because I know a lot of people, when they first find out about human design, it becomes knowledge. It's like, oh, this is interesting, but you don't know what to do with it. When did you start to actually feel like you had something to do with it? The idea of waiting to respond and all that.
I feel like that happened pretty immediately.
Yeah.
Having some sense because I was personally in such an initiate place.
Yeah. You were ready for change.
Because I had been, pummeled by that wave, I was amenable to doing things differently. I had the wherewithal to look and say, what you've been doing hasn't been working.
Yeah.
So maybe you could be available to look at things differently, see what happens.
Yeah. So you're a triple split. I'm a triple split. And do you know if your husband bridges your splits?
He bridges every single one of them.
Oh, good.
People talk about love at first sight. I've really realized its mechanics. The moment I saw him, I was like, this is my husband.
Yeah.
The very first moment when I did that chart overlay, I was like,
yeah.
Was it really love at first sight or did I know I was going to be bridged to single definition?
That's interesting. Yeah. See, I bridge all my husband's split. We're single definition together. Both of us are.
Right.
Versus our daughter bridges my splits and she's single definition already. So it doesn't have as much impact on her. It's so interesting because my daughter bridges my splits, but does not define any new centers for me. Whereas my husband bridges all my splits and defines my sacral and my ajna, and I define his solar plexus and his will. Well, I defined some centers for my daughter. So, but for me, there's not as much, it's a different kind of impact. It's interesting to watch. For those who are listening, if you don't know, if you're a triple split, you have 3 different places that your centers talk to each other, but are split from the others. I'm looking at Kate's chart and she has the throat defined to both the identity center and the spleen is one split. And then she has the root defined to the sacral, another split. And then she has the emotional solar plexus to the will is another split. That's not really where the split is. Those are the centers that work together. And then different gates can come in and bring that in. And when we have a triple split, we are meant to get integration through lots of different ways that we connect those things. When someone in our life connects all of our splits, we can get this weird feeling of being controlled by them. And so I think about the fact that you left your whole life and just had your husband and went to this new place. And my guess would be that you had a lot of time that it was just you and him. But you were probably, like for me, it's I've just got to get out and go be with other people, preferably with a lot of other people, to feel those connections in me come through some other way, shape, or form. It does help that I have two people who bridge my splits in different ways in the same house. So I just move from room to room. That helps a little. But so that was my preface for the explanation or the question of, did you feel like this move with just you and him was difficult on your relationship?
I've never felt like that him bridging all my splits makes me feel like I'm controlled by him.
Maybe controlled isn't the right word always, but there can be this lack of feeling of freedom, like worrying, thinking a lot about their feelings. So you were talking about him being undefined solar plexus, and I have that same dynamic. And my husband has a defined ajna, and I do not. And so I'd find myself often thinking about how he thinks all the time, thinking about how he feels all the time, and then resenting it. And so I've realized that when he's getting on my nerves, it doesn't necessarily feel like control, but I am bothered by how he thinks and feels. So then I'm like, I got to go to Kroger. That's the grocery store area. I'm going to go to Kroger and I'm going to take my time and walk through the aisles and go stand over in this section where people are getting produce and like kind of be within aura of people in the checkouts and all that stuff, and just feel how things shift in me and I start to get clarity on things. So
that resonates absolutely.
Yeah.
So I will say we had already been sleeping separately. And, as the 5 line, the sacral, non-sacral, the projector,
Right.
Generator, he was like early into the experiment. He said, well, how would you feel if we just tried sleeping separately? Would that be okay? And I feel like if we had just gotten married or just gotten together, I would have been like so offended by it. But I let that curiosity play out, and it's been the most amazing thing ever. And if anybody's teetering on trying to sleep separately, like I encourage it. Absolutely. If you find that you drift away, then that might be a sign of something. But for us, it really brought us closer together. So yes, we did have a lot of time in the beginning where it was just him and I. Sleeping separately definitely helped that. Him unplugging from a super stressful job and coming into this place where he could just be was very liberating for him. So he was happy from the beginning. He was like, I love this place. It's amazing. For me, it was a lot more challenging. I had, even though my career life wasn't necessarily playing out the way I wanted, I had groups and people and things that I like to do. And when I realized that's gone, I'm in this strange city. And now what? I remember coming home one day and just crying and saying, I'm not where you are right now, but I will get there one day. Because he was just like, why can't you be happy? Why can't you be happy? And I was like, we're not on the same timeline of integration here. We had different motivations for wanting to do this adventure. And that became quite evident early on. Now, once we got accustomed to being there, he had his things that he did, I had mine, and we had more independence and freedom from each other. And that helped as well.
Yeah. So how long after your reading did you move to Ecuador?
It was 2 months.
Oh,
so we started playing around with it before Christmas. And then we made the decision to have the readings, and then we left the end of May.
Oh, okay.
So it was pretty quick.
So that's about 5-6 months then for the whole. Yeah. So you and your husband have been pretty much in this experiment together then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the same time frame. And that's interesting. I don't think I've talked to anybody who's been in that situation where they both really entered into it you would feel like you both have the same level of commitment to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I will say with I thought I was coming back to Ohio to visit my mom for 2 weeks, and that has turned into permanent relocation. Matt is still in Ecuador with our dog. There's a lot of red tape we have to go through to be able to get Lucas here with us.
Oh,
And he's managing all that. And because he's still there and I'm here, there is some, fears come up and worries come up. And how is all of this going to play out? And I decided to be in that space of letting him have his process with it.
mm-hmm.
And I'll have mine, because I don't know how all the dots are going to connect yet, but I know they're going to.
Yeah.
Right. So it will be even more interesting once we both start working again, or working in a different way now that we're back, and not picking up those old bad habits of the not self that we did the shedding of and don't want to call back.
Yeah. So can you speak to that a little bit? What sort of habits did you feel you were able to shed?
The worrying, the trying, the forcing, the pushing to make things happen. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to fall back into that, because when I pause from those thoughts and really come back into my body says, it's all good. I don't know what you're freaking out about.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful to have that connection.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why human design can be such a mental endeavor for so many people, because they don't have a mind-body connection. And if you're living all the way up here all the time, you're not going to feel what your body is trying to share with you. So when I drop in, my body's like, do you want some tea? You want to walk in the sunshine? Have we moved enough today? Life is unfolding for you. Let it come to you, and don't let mental chatter rule the day.
Yeah. And so, looking at your design, I mean, you have this hope motivation, right? And so that just feels, it's so counter, like, especially American society, that you're just going to do things from this place of hope rather than some sort of strategy. And then your variables, which for those who are listening, those are the arrows on the side of your body graph. And I've been really focusing on that a lot right now. I just recently created a resource to explain all that in depth. So I right away look at that and I'm like, oh, you've got this really interesting dynamic of this active brain, right, that wants to grab all the information and focus in that way. But everything else is right facing. So it's this observer, like, let me take it all in. Let me have this big picture perspective, and I'll just wait and see what people in life pull out of my mind. And it can be really tricky, and you can have this little bit of anxiety in that left brain that's like, no, we need to strategize. We need to blah, blah, blah. So when you can give your brain something to do so that your mind can really relax into the state that it's meant to be in, right?
Yeah.
And so I could see where that might be easier in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Especially with everything that's going on here. I don't know what's going on in Ecuador, so who knows? That might be just as equally chaotic as this world is right now. But I feel like coming back to the States we're recording this in October, late October of 2025. There's lots going on.
There is. And at the same point, the reason I say got stuck here or got repositioned is because we live in a highly indigenous portion of Ecuador, and they have their own rules, their own constitution, their own government. And when they decide to do a strike, they shut the city down.
Yeah.
So they down trees, they block roads, they force businesses to shut down. And there was no way for me to get from the airport to our house. There was no way for me to get back to my husband and my dog.
Oh, wow.
And so I was looking at changing plane tickets. And then it was like, well, when do you change it to? Historically, they've only lasted a couple weeks. This one went 31 days. People have lost livelihoods because of this. And it was, to me, it's hard to have empathy for someone speaking of oppression and then also oppressing. So when we talk about the chaos here, this is a very small town in Ohio. If I don't turn on the news, I don't know that there's any chaos at all here. And that felt very nice. So it went from how do I get back to what are we doing? Has our reason for going played out? And it's time to make a change. And that's ultimately what we decided.
Yeah.
Right. The fuel, the energy lines that took us there were like, they had played out. And so we knew our time there was likely coming to completion. And this was the sign we needed.
Yeah. So now you just have to figure out how you're getting him back to you, huh?
Right.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking you're probably somewhere around your Chiron return, aren't you? Did you just have that or?
No, I think
No?
it's 2027.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun year for a Chiron return, right? And human design, if you don't know what 2027 is about, that's, I'm just saying for people listening, there's a lot going on in there. So, yeah, June 2027. Okay, awesome. So I just wondered if all this, but any of these big cycles, they are very much, you're already in it, is my point.
Right.
It don't just happen for a week or a day that they'll say is the exact point. So, okay. What you're doing in Ecuador was mostly online livelihood, right? Or did somebody have a physical job there in Ecuador?
I had a small chiropractic office in the town that we're leaving, and Matt did some construction work down there with project management kinds of things, but both of them in a very, very laid back kind of way.
Yeah. And is it, do you feel it's in the future to try to recreate that laid back sort of lifestyle here? Or is
my body immediately said,
no, no laid back lifestyle.
That is not happening. For a few years, we pretended to be retired so hard. We rode that train all the way to the station. And now it's, we're not retired. We do not have sustainable income coming in. And now it is about plugging back in for sure.
Yeah. It's funny because when you were first talking about, you talked about you having a little bit of design envy of other designs or whatever. And I wonder if your husband feels this, but I often have sacral envy of people because I can literally see your response in your body when you are. And there's so many times when I'll be talking to somebody who is a generator type or a manifesting generator, someone with a defined sacral who is not really in their experiment, not really aware or still. And some of them actually think they're in their experiment, but they're just still living in their mind, right? You can totally see how they there's no awareness of their body's response to things. It's just something that I always have a little admiration for when I see that, not just the head nodding, but the whole body kind of leaning into the yes or the no, the pull, almost a pulling back of the tightening down of the sacral. Because I think of the sacral as almost a diaphragm that opens to life and no energy there, right? So, yeah. Does your husband have sacral envy? Do you think?
Does he have sacral envy?
Does he ever
ask him? I think it made so much sense to him when he found out. He was so conditioned to be a generator. He read his chart wrong and said when he emailed, I don't know if you knew he left from the human design world. No. Anyway, and he said, I'm a 3-5 generator. And he was so mad when he thought that was true. He was like, how do I get out of this? I'm about to die here. And the consultant came back and said, no, you're a projector. And he was like, he just felt so much relief at that he didn't have to compete or try to live up to that way of being. Does he have, I don't know. There's no knowing in my body of whether or not he has.
Yeah. So, and then you said he's a splenic projector. Do you know what channel he has there to define his, is it the mid?
The top of my head. It's from root to.
Yeah, there's just 3 of them. Sometimes I'm visual, even if I can't remember numbers, I'd be, it's the one in the middle or.
Pretty sure it's the one in the middle.
Yeah, that's the channel of struggle. Was he stubborn?
No, he's got the channel of judgment. He's got the channel of judgment and it's unconscious to him, but very, very conscious to me.
Yes. My husband has that channel as well, and I always notice it, and then I realize that I amplify it like crazy because, I would always see his judgment, and then my judgment gets even stronger, right? So it's like when you become aware of it. So, because I don't have either of those gates, just like I see you don't have either of them. Do you? Wait, I'm looking at your Chiron chart. Yeah. I don't either.
I don't have either of those.
You don't have 18 or 58. Well, we all have all the chart. You don't have them defined. So when you don't have them defined, we're here to have a more flexible experience of them, learn about them in different ways, learn about them by amplifying them in our spouses and then seeing that that's not the right use of that energy, right? That's how we become wise in those areas. But yeah, that's one that I know well. It's my point. So, okay, so you are moving back, and so you were telling me about stuff that you were thinking of doing.
Right. So that's the Body First program that I've
Yeah.
created. And the whole point is to get people more in their bodies and out of their heads. Because generators will ask you, how do I do that? And it's not like this one, you snap your fingers 3 times, do 2 hops, but there is a process that will bring you into that space. So it's been fascinating to me because right after chiropractic school, I shifted really deep into the alternative healing world with sound therapy and Reiki and EFT and all of this energy work. And I kind of put the body in a separate box. So I had patients that would come in and see me for chiropractic, and then I had people that would come in and see me for energy work. They would set an intention, we would go through, bring up the obstacles, give them what they needed to move through those and move forward. And this is a realization I just had towards the beginning of this year, because the expat population in Ecuador is older, they're aging, and people fall down all the time. They're always falling down, and you see them and they have 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. And it's like, why are these people falling down all the time? And I started watching the shoes that they wear. And so they wear these really are you familiar with Hokas? They have the really giant base, tons of cushion. Well, when you wear shoes like that, or shoes that are orthopedic shoes, they really restrict the motion of your feet. It's wearing earmuffs on your ears and wondering why you can't hear very well. So I started looking at how to do and offer fall prevention workshops so that people could reestablish those lines of communication. And it was like this eureka light bulb moment that you have to have information coming from your feet. You have to have it coming from your inner ears, your breath, your rib cage, your core, all of those things working in sync cohesively. And when that happens, your mind reconnects on its own. And once your mind reconnects, it can then hear what the body has to say. So that's the body first idea. Get people in their body first. Yeah. We're going to have a lot easier time living from their instincts or from their intuition from there, because those things live in our body. And if you're trying to be out here all the time, whether, in the craziness of your thoughts or trying to live in the 5th dimension or whatever it may be, you're going to have a really hard time grounding those things into any tangible experience.
It's making me think of, I can't remember who the expert was that this was on this podcast, but she was talking about feet, and she was saying how bad running shoes are for your body in general, because the way that they lift the heel, and they're designed to make you run fast. But if you're running in them all the time, that's why so many people are getting issues with their Achilles and the plantar fasciitis and all this stuff, because the shortening of the tendons or ligaments or whatever it is. I'm no doctor, but you can correct that for me. But she was saying how, there's these new shoes, and I've seen people wearing these different things, and just, there's still so many people who don't walk barefoot anywhere. They don't go outside. And I love to go outside and put my feet on the grass, but my husband has this thing about, you're bringing the chemicals and the dirt into the house. And I'm like, because a lot of people, they wear shoes outside, they take their shoes off when they come inside, and some people put on different shoes when they come inside, and they have house shoes. And right now, I'm sitting here barefoot, and I keep putting my feet back into my slippers because it's cold. But yeah, there's this connection that we lose because we try to support everything. And I feel like that's a really great analogy of life in general. We lose strength in what's too supported, but then problems can happen when there's not enough support. So getting into your body first, it can support the mind, but you don't want to rely so much on the body that you alienate the mind, right? I felt a response for you in there. So something I said didn't sit with you.
No, it's reconnecting. The mind is in a hyper alert state because it's not
Right.
getting any information at all from the body.
Right. Yeah.
So when those lines of communication are restored, then the mind can say, oh, I don't need to freak out about that. I don't need to
Yes.
look for things to fix. I can just be.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I can see, especially I'm thinking about people who are, um, well, there's so many different things. I just right away was thinking of my daughter who's a splenic manifester and how disconnected she is. And I always feel I kind of did that to her in the conditioning way that we raised her, right? But she's meant to feel everything in this splenic awareness. And it's difficult to get her out of the anxiety in her mind and back into it if we can raise kids where we stay connected with that, because it's a lot harder to undo something, that conditioning, than to come into it originally.
And then think about it. What happens along with being told what to do, what's acceptable, what to think, how to be? That's also the time when we're forced to wear shoes for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were really young, we moved intuitively. We knew what positions to be in and how to run and how to do all these things. And then when it came time for school, we were forced to put on these shoes that I don't know about today's children, what they wear to school. But when we were growing up, those shoes were not comfortable shoes. Those shoes were not things your feet wanted to be in. They were things your feet were forced to be in. And so that's where I feel like our disconnection with instincts happen. And then magnified by this programming to conform that we're subjected to when we go to school.
Yeah.
And then all the extra parameters that are placed on us at home, what to eat, how to speak, when to be quiet, all of those things.
Yeah, it's so interesting, to watch how we swing so far in different directions as society. And we went from having kids who just kind of were almost feral, right? They would just run and do everything. And then we were like, no, we got to teach these kids how to be civilized. And then we had like good little soldier ways of doing things. And, now I think people are trying to find a little bit more middle ground. I don't know. But so when you do this body first, is it something that is there a structured thing you take people through, or tell me a little bit about how this works?
Sure. It's a completely online do-it-yourself program that takes you through the 7 ways your body communicates and coordinates information. And you do one movement for each of the 7. It happens in 3 to 5 minutes a day. You do it every day. And then there's a 30-day challenge with it. It takes you through a different kind of flow. The idea being you pick and choose the exercises you want to do to create a flow that feels really good to you, that makes you feel really grounded and present in your body. And then there are a couple like bonus expansions for accessory work, because people go to the gym and there is this kind of baseline assumption that your personal trainer or your group exercise class instructor make about how you make movement, right? But a lot of people are skipping foundational steps, and then they're going to the gym and they're getting hurt. They're trying new exercises and they're getting hurt. And then they're thinking, well, why am I doing this? So a lot of times that has to do with the accessory muscles, things like your adductors, your internal and external hip rotators, your serratus anterior, all of these different things. So it takes you through strengthening all of those. And then also, this is where I'm kind of geeking out because I'm rejoining the science part of me with the, if you feel better, you'll make a better decision. Right? And it's about the anatomical slings. So your muscles are grouped together by fascia in specific ways to coordinate function. But in the isolated motions that we've been taught to do to build muscle, we are acting at the expense of those pre-programmed patterns. So this is about coordinating movement in a totally different way that's going to make you feel steadier and more functional and improve your mobility and allow you to do the harder core exercises without getting hurt.
That's really impactful. I've been looking into a lot of that stuff myself, but I did this thing in August. I just decided that I've been saying for a long time, I need more dancing in my life. I've been saying that I want to get in shape. Everything felt like too much work. Getting to the gym was difficult for transportation reasons in my family. We're doing 2 cars for 3 people, and I'm the only one who doesn't have to leave the house for my work, so I often will be the one at home with no vehicle. So to try to have any kind of get to the gym schedule, it would require too much. So I decided, one day in August, I'm going to get my 61-year-old ass in shape by teaching myself how to shuffle dance. So I did this challenge, and about 2 weeks in, I started to realize that I was having this pain, and I don't know the names of the muscles, but it's a type of bursitis that happens just below the kneecap on the inside area of the upper calf there. And I started feeling it big time in my right leg, a little bit in my left leg. And so I had to shift what I was doing. And I realized, and in the beginning, even I was aware, okay, I need to take it slow. I am not strong. I am not used to doing this. I need to exercise, but we exercise in a way that is so controlled in most cases that we don't. There was someone I was listening to, and I don't remember her name. It starts with a V. She does a bunch of YouTube videos, and she talks about anti-fragility rather than strength training. So she's like, we can bench press 300 pounds, but we can't move a couch without throwing our back out, right? Because everybody is training in these super controlled, very specific movements that don't use those muscles that you're talking about. So I'm really big on this new thing about training, all the rules that we thought we were supposed to follow. And I feel this happens in everything in life. We learn a set of rules. We say, don't let your knees go over your ankles. When you squat, don't be wider than whatever, and now everything is, you're conditioning your body to not be able to have your knees go over your ankles. You're conditioning your body. And so I think that's really an interesting thing. And the communication parts, you were talking about the feet and how does all of this movement work with the communication part for the body?
Right. So you have millions of proprioceptors in the bottoms of your feet, and those proprioceptors send
Tell
signals to your brain that tell your brain where you are in space and time. So
Okay.
when you have on really rigid shoes, when you have on shoes that put you in an anatomical incorrect position, your heels are raised, or there's a lot of cushion, those
Right.
little data collectors down there are trying so hard to get information to send to your brain, and they're not finding it. And then most of what we do, eyesight wise, is on a screen. So we're only tracking 2-dimensionally, up and down and side to side. So our inner ears are checked out too. So nobody can stand with their eyes closed on one foot for 5 seconds because our eyes have been put in this hyper alert state, right? And that's put your nervous system in a hyper aware state. So I saw that when you started that shuffle dancing, and I reached out to you because I was like, oh dear. I had a zero response when you announced that you were going to do it. And I was like, oh, I hope she strengthens her feet first. I hope she strengthens her feet.
And I thought I was, but it wasn't enough. It was like I was doing a few things, and I was just looking under my desk here. I have these here, I'm slinking down so I can grab them again with my feet. I have these things I ordered. There's actually 2 of them. And I now have these underneath my desk. Actually, there's 3 of them. One is the size of 2. So I keep them like this under my desk, and I just do different things on those, as well as the key is I needed to do more, I need to do more stuff barefoot. So walking up the stairs and bending my feet weird ways as I walk up. And I found that I can find ways to just being silly in doing it that feels a little bit more, I don't know, fun. And I think sometimes making everything serious keeps me from doing it. So that's why the shuffle dance thing was appealing to me. But I did have to stop, and now I haven't gotten really back into it because of that. And so, but I do love all these things that you're saying, and finding the consistency you've got that hanging gait 5, so you can get the rhythms and the patterns, but finding that consistency to be able to do the things in a way that gets the results, but doesn't just feel like another chore, for me is important.
Right.
You know?
And sometimes people, I mean, we all know how to strengthen our biceps or, do a
Right.
push-up to strengthen our pecs. And so we think walking barefoot is going to be enough to strengthen our feet. But what we don't realize is our shoes have conditioned our feet to check out. They say, you don't have to do anything. We're going to support your arch. We're going to put you, in a toe off position to make you run faster for the running shoes you were talking about. And I think that podcast was Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
And the doctors from Gate Happens. And as soon as she started talking, I was like, that's got to be a chiropractor. and she is. And I was like, man, someone else is as geeked out on feet as I am.
Yeah, that was one. I love his podcasts. He's they're long, but there's always a lot of really good. So,
but you have these intrinsic muscles in your feet that form an arch. And if you can't make a short foot, is what it's called, you're not strengthening your feet. So people switch to barefoot shoes and they think it's going to solve all their problems. But if you're just walking and you're not doing anything specific to fix your feet or wake them back up, then you're going to cause more problems and you're going to have injuries and pain and stuff like that. But that's not something that gets talked about a lot, like how to make this motion.
Yeah. So, right. I'm trying to think of, and I'm trying to do it right now as we're talking. And I'm like, that actually is a little bit uncomfortable to even try to do. You feel the stiffness in there, right?
You want to bring the base of your toes. So your toes aren't gripping into the floor at all. They're staying straight. And you're just moving.
You're sliding the ball of your foot back. Yeah. Now, I will say that at one point, there was a time up until a couple of years up until COVID where I was doing reformer Pilates. And I felt like I had all kinds of different things that went on with my feet then that were really good. Like when I look at my feet and put my feet, my legs up so my feet are side by side, one foot looks longer than the other. But what I've realized is one foot is flatter than the other. So the bones have lengthened. And I realized when I was doing the reformer Pilates and all the different things they have you do with your feet on there, that my feet were much more consistent at that point in time. So one of these days I will maybe get back to that. But getting back to the whole human design part, because this is really great stuff. And I would love to have a whole conversation about fitness, but I know most of our guests are listening to this because of the human design element. And I'm wondering how you feel this impacts the human design experiment, because I can see something in you that I don't normally see in someone who is 4 years into their experiment. You feel more, there is a calmness, there's a connectedness, there is a not just connected to your sacral response, but I can see the things you're talking about, the fact that you're fully in your body, right? And so you feel you were fully in your body when you found human design.
No, that was another, not fully in my body, glimmers, we'll call them, but not a stable base where I could be all the time. I feel like that really happened after I started wearing the barefoot shoes and started paying more attention to my feet and having more of an awareness of my body, because I thought, well, I walk and do yoga, that's enough. And then when I did get back into the gym, I realized how much strength I had lost. Because as we age, your muscles will eventually get smaller, but they're going to get weaker first. So I would look down and think, I still have massive quads, I'm fine. But they were massively weaker than what they were before. So getting into the because I always said I had little lady feet for my whole life. And now I'm realizing I just had feet that didn't want to be in regular shoes. So once I started reconnecting the communication, that's when I got fully grounded in my body.
What do you do now that you're back in Ohio and it's starting to get cold? What do you like to put right now? What do you have? Do you have anything on your feet right now?
No, just socks.
Yeah, but you do walk around in socks and you don't find that impacts anything. Because your feet don't feel the same way. Yeah.
I prefer to be barefoot, but it is chilly. In Ecuador, it's 45 to 75 degrees every day. So it never got really cold. It never got really, really hot. And I will miss that. I'm quick to miss that.
45? It got down to 45?
We were in the mountains, 8,200 feet-ish.
Yeah.
So you're pretty high up.
Yeah.
I am hot thirst. So I definitely prefer to be in warmer environments, and I'm going to have to get used to, just wearing more clothes. But I will say the barefoot shoes are not leather. So if we walk outside and your feet are going to get cold.
Right.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Oh,
No.
so you wear the barefoot shoes there? Is that what you're wearing when you go outside?
Oh, yeah. They're the only kind of shoe my feet will go into. Like I remember last year, I hadn't played pickleball in a while. I had only worn barefoot shoes. And then I was going to go play pickleball. And I went to put my foot in that real rigid structured tennis shoe. And my body's response was so loud. It was, I'm not doing that. You need to burn those shoes. That's the only kind of shoe I wear. But getting to that level of knowingness from your body where you're hearing the response, like I quit drinking last year because I went to get a bottle of wine off the shelf and my arm wouldn't lift. And it was, we need to be done with that. We're done with that. You're not getting anything out of that. I don't drink coffee every morning because my body's once a week is probably too much. I stopped wearing makeup. I went to put on mascara one day and my body was, why? What are you? All these little things that add up to big things. I used to use a scrubby in the shower that was, it's like made of plastic.
Yeah.
And it was like, don't ever put that on me again. And those kind of things are pretty cool. When you get to that level of hearing your body's response and its direction and its guidance, that's when you really start to feel like you're the passenger.
Yeah.
That's when I really started to feel like it.
Yeah. And for those listening who don't know the reference, in traditional human design speak, we talk about passenger consciousness, this idea that we are the observer, right? It's like Eckhart Tolle talks about that observer who is watching the life. You're just sitting there and this vehicle's moving. You're not driving the car. You're sitting in the back seat watching the life. To think about that, having your body be that tuned in that you're seeing all those things. I know a lot of people who muscle test everything in their body or their sacral and ways to do those things. But when your body just says, no, that's really tuned in. And I can see that would be a great thing. I wonder if there's anything your body has said no to where there's a part of you that was a little bit sad when it said that.
Well, I used to enjoy a glass of wine. I've never been a heavy drinker.
Right.
So I was a little bit sad, but I had seen it coming for a while.
Yeah.
So I had time to prepare.
I'd be sad if my body said no to lipstick because I really like lipstick.
I used to wear eyeliner. I never wore a lot of makeup, but I thought that that's what I needed to look like. And I liked the different colors and things like that. But stopping wearing it, I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
It is kind of funny. The internet can be a little bit of a cruel place sometimes. I make videos and I don't wear any makeup and I don't color my hair. I don't put anything in my hair. And if I say something that somebody doesn't like, sometimes the default is to, call me a lesbian or something like that. And I don't have any judgment on that lifestyle, but it was like, I wanted to get these glasses. And Matt said, do you want your glasses to be a statement piece? And I was like, well, I want them to say something, right? Because I'm so plain, I guess, or maybe plain is a judgment word, just because I'm natural and I'm no longer have any desire to be anything other than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was just kind of a funny story. It's like, if you want to argue my point, but why are you bringing my sexuality?
Right? And it's not even correct. You're
right.
And yeah, I get what you're saying. I know that there are people that I know and love that will often, like when they're upset with someone, start insulting things that have nothing to do with what they're upset about, whether it be usually something physical, right? And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with it? I do think that there is something to be said about, I want to clarify this because I talk a lot about personal image. And so I want to make sure that I'm clear in what my message is on that, because I help people to present themselves outwardly the way they feel inwardly. And sometimes that can feel like, because one of the things I say is you don't want to disappear into the woodwork, right? We're here to have an impact and to have a statement. And sometimes we can think that that means that we shouldn't stand out, show up, that there's something that's too ostentatious or whatever. And like, I love color. My cognition is outer visions. Everything is visual for me. So I love to put on, a fun pair of earrings or a scarf. Now, does that mean that that's everyone? No. But I do think, and I'm not in any way saying this is you, because I think you have adorable little style about you. But there is this thing in the spiritual community, especially, where people don't think they should put any effort at all into their appearance because that somehow makes them superficial. And there's nothing wrong with honoring the visuals of your body, and celebrating it. Just like if you've ever really enjoyed the feeling of putting on lotion in a way that you're honoring your body. We can get dressed in a way that's honoring our body and showing up in a way that really shows people who we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of space between overdoing it and looking like you've
Right.
given up. And do what makes you feel good about
Right.
you, for
Yes.
sure.
Absolutely. So,
Oh, can I share one more kind of body awareness thing that has
Yeah.
happened? Being at this point in the experiment and feeling this deep connection with my body. When I did start exercising more, weight just fell off of me, which was crazy because I had tried to lose weight before. I was looking at what I was eating and how much activity I was getting. It's like I shouldn't be holding on to all of this extra. And then it was 2 years ago now, I did a version of the 75 hard challenge and the scale immediately started moving. And my version aligned with my authority. So it wasn't near the version that you're supposed to do for the 75, which is kind
I
of
don't know the 75.
It's like so much water a day, a strict diet, so much reading and a self-help book, no alcohol, and like an hour and a half of movement a day. So I tailored that to something that felt really good for me. Like the only dietary change I made was hot thirst. I didn't eat anything that was cooler than room temperature. And I couldn't believe it. 20 pounds just dropped off. And I am 48. I'm coming into perimenopause where everything out there says, oh, you're going to put on weight. You're going to have hot flashes. You're going to have sleep disturbances. You're going to have all these things. And at that point, I was like, if it's hot, I'm eating it. I am not filtering. Now I'm not depriving.
Give me that hot apple pie.
My metabolism has never been this high my whole life. And I'm going to ride that train as long as
And you think that was from the hot thirst specifically, or do you think it was the connection to like knowing what your body wants and doesn't want, or both?
It's the connection. It's more,
Yeah.
It has, for me, more to do with the decisions I'm making every day that have nothing to do with food.
Yeah.
Like, how am I living?
So if somebody wants to find out more about your Body First program, where do they go to find that, or find you in general? Because you already got me interested.
You can find the program details at howtohuman.guide.
Okay.
And then my social media handles are all at Dr. Kate Flynn. So I'm on TikTok, which kind of cracks me up. But
Yeah.
it's actually the most fun one to be on, I think, from a creator standpoint. And then Instagram, YouTube, all of those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I really have enjoyed talking to you. This hour just flew by. So I just looked at the time and I was like, oh, I guess we have had our chat. So if anybody has questions, they can reach out to you. The best way is there one place you're the most responsive?
And through the website or drkateflynn@gmail.com is my.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being here. We had a great little chat, and peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Real Human Design Stories. I hope these stories help you see how human design can reframe not only your own story, but also the stories you tell yourself about your relationships. If you're ready to tell a more empowered story about who you came here to be, I invite you to explore ways to work with me directly at kathybashanko.com. Supporting this podcast is easy. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star rating, like, comment, and share with your friends. This helps the podcast grow the most. You can also become a contributing sponsor for as little as 99 cents a month. Details are available at realhumandesignstories.com. Thanks again for being here. Real Human Design Stories is created and hosted by me, Kathy Pashanko. Peace out, everybody.